Hello there, Maria. How are you? I had not seen you in a while.
Hey Anita, just doving, nothing much. Except I've been very sad lately. Just thinking about the mess I'm seeing in the rivers around the city and how they make it all the way to the Panama Bay. It's not a pretty sight. The air is pretty polluted, and I have been observing a trend of less trees around the city. My search for the good stuff takes further trips outside the city, and urbanization seems to be growing without limitations.
Oh, buddy, I totally get you. Same thing here. I wonder why humans are destroying this beautiful planet. Maybe they don't find it as lovely as we do. Perhaps they're too busy to take a look around. Another thing that happens in this wonderful tropical country is that there is a huge problem with inequality, where even the most educated people who know the toll of destroying ecosystems don't seem to do a thing about this problem. In fact, sometimes they are the ones exploiting our natural resources the most without any form of protection or remediation. It concerns me.
Buddy, do you think there is a plan B for us, for our offspring? We have to think seriously about this. What about Mars?
Uh, no way, buddy. We would have to be extremophiles, and that idea is far from impossible at this point.
Extremophiles? What on earth is that? You always come up with pretty complex names and ideas.
Oh, I like to hang out near the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute near Ancon Hill. Great palm trees, and I've learned a few things from those crazy scientists. I'll tell you a little bit about extremophiles and what is known about extreme conditions on Mars. Then you can make your own conclusions. An extremophile is an organism that can belong to any of the three domains: eukaryota, that would be us, Maria, archaea, or bacteria, and are adapted to what we would be considered an extreme environment on our planet. This little guy here is a tardigrade, also known as a water bear, and it is a microinvertebrate that has survived the five mass extinctions and can survive conditions that would be fatal for most animals. High temperature extremophiles are called hyperthermophiles that can withstand and thrive in temperatures higher than 80 degrees Celsius, while thermophiles can live and thrive at an optimal temperature of 60 to 80 degrees Celsius. How do they manage to do this? Well, other than having smaller genomes and cells, they have to do things like alter their lipid composition, alter salt concentration within their cells, and manage to stabilize their DNA in high temperatures through several mechanisms. Here we have Methanopyrus candeleri. You can observe it. On the other hand, we have the psychrophiles. These guys are cold lovers and can live and thrive in low temperatures, like this listeria species you can observe. Things they do to cope with the cold are the increase of membrane fluidity, maintenance of protein synthesis by increasing protein flexibility, and producing cold acclimation proteins and antifreeze proteins.
Wow, those are some cool organisms.
Oh, yes. Then we have the organisms that have adapted to high and low pressures, barophiles, which have an optimal growth at 400 bars. For example, we can see Moritella yayanosi. It can live in places like the Marianas Trench where the pressure is 800 times that of sea level. We would be crushed under this environment, and our enzymes would not function, like Shigella violacea as well. As we abandon sea level and start climbing up the atmosphere, the pressure is reduced. Thus, we can expect hypobarophilic organisms, if there is any, near the clouds. Other type of extremophiles are the acidophiles that can live in acidic environments and must reinforce their cell membrane and or actively pump out hydrogen out of the cell, like the archaean Ferroplasm acidiphyllum that you can see here to the left. This little guy lives in most acidic water in the world at the Superfund site Richmond mine of the Iron Mountain under a pH of minus 3.6. Calophiles live in basic environments and cope with their environment by reducing loss of protons and actively pumping protons inside their cell. The Wadi Natron in Egypt, with several lakes, has a pH that ranges from 10 to 12 and contains phyla representatives of archaea and bacteria in the water. Now let me tell you about other extremophiles, the halophiles. These organisms that are salt tolerant have strategies to deal with the loss of water from the cell and to keep a good ion concentration inside the cell. Keeping everything out and leaving the cell unchanged is one way to do it. Having a salty environment inside their cell and thus avoid water loss to the surrounding is another. Here is an example, Bacillus subtilis. Other extremophiles are those that can adapt to desiccation. You know, water is essential for life. In fact, life requires a medium where all chemical reactions can happen, like it happened at the beginning of life on Earth. Certain organisms can survive desiccation for long periods of time. These organisms go through structural changes like, for example, adding trehalose and sucrose along with vitrification, which is a supercooling liquid in extreme viscosity. Physiological changes are another way of coping with desiccation. For example, the use of hydrophilins in plants and bacteria, and the use of aquaporins to facilitate movement of water and other substances in cell membranes. The other way to cope with desiccation is through molecular adaptation. For example, look at this guy here, Pseudomonas putida. Has water deprivation control with the WDC genes that helps them maintain their structural integrity of the cell envelope for normal protein functioning. They have high intracellular manganese levels, which serve them as antioxidants, and they also have low iron concentrations, which have been seen that are very important to survive desiccation. Last but not least, extremophiles under radiation. Oh wait, Maria, are you bored with all my talking?
Absolutely not. I can't get enough of this topic.
Where was I? Oh yeah, radiation-resistant organisms. First off, radiation is simply the movement of energy from one area to another, and there are three types: electromagnetic, mechanical, and particle radiations. Probably the one that we're exposed to the most in the environment is electromagnetic, and this includes the rays from our sun, ultraviolet, visible, and infrared radiation. Even though ultraviolet radiation that reached the Earth is 5% of all the solar radiation, it is the one that is damaging to life. UV radiation inhibits cell division, cell differentiation, and photosynthesis. It is absorbed by DNA, RNA, and proteins, and it can be seriously damaging to these. And it also causes oxidative stress. One fix for DNA is done with photolysis. One fix for oxidative damage caused by reactive oxidative species that causes DNA, enzyme, and lipid damage is antioxidants, carotenoids, and special enzymes. One really cool organism is called Deinococcus radiodurans, a eubacteria resistant to radiation and oxidation, and it is highly efficient at DNA repair. Keep this species in mind, Maria. We will talk about it later. Enterospores are also highly resistant to physical and chemical conditions, heat desiccation, radiation, and are produced by Bacillus and Clostridium. They germinate when conditions are once again favorable. Now that you know all the extremophiles, their types, and how they cope with their extreme environment, let's talk about Mars. What is it like on Mars? Well, other than impossible for us that need plenty of oxygen, water, and delicious palm trees and fruits, and awesome sunny weather and beaches, scientists have learned about the condition on Mars by exploring through orbiters and rovers from different space missions. Mars is about a third the size of the Earth. The mean temperature is minus 50 Celsius, but it may reach 30 Celsius at southern hemisphere. It has a ferric iron oxide red surface with no vegetation, no magnetosphere, thus no protection from UV and other harmful solar damage. With much thinner atmosphere compared to that of Earth, composed mostly of carbon dioxide, results in an average atmospheric surface pressure of 7 millibars when compared to Earth that is 1,013.25 millibars.
Wow. So from my understanding, we need a superorganism that is psychrophilic, hypobarophilic, must live under anoxic conditions that can survive desiccation since there is no water, and resistant to extreme UV radiation due to a thinner, unstable atmosphere because there's no magnetosphere to protect it from solar winds.
You got this, Maria. Researchers have tested several known tough extremophiles, microorganisms under Mars environmental conditions on Earth, and they found a very interesting microbe, Deinococcus radiodurans. Remember him? Well, this guy is also known as Conan the bacterium, survives desiccation, UV radiation exposure, is a psychrophile, and can live acidic environments. This organism managed to survive these Martian conditions in a study by resisting high radiation levels when desiccated and frozen. A scientific study predicts that in subsurface they could survive approximately 1.5 million years. Again, these are some tough microbes.
This is fantastic. Plan B sounds to me like an impossible plan for us oxygen-breathing, wonderful birds. I guess we will have to hope humans start taking care of our planet, while cool astrobiologists and astronomers can figure all this stuff out. This conversation made me wonder, are we alone in the universe?
That is certainly a very interesting topic. I will see you next week. Same day of the week, same time. We can talk about lithopanspermia, possible sites where life could have arose, and what is needed for life to arise.
I'll be here. I won't miss it for anything in the world.
Goodbye. See you next time.